Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage your Master of Ceremonies, Carlo Capua.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Please feel free to find your seats, grab a meal, and we will get started. It is my sincere honor to welcome you to the 9th annual Bring the Conversation to Light Luncheon benefiting the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. My name is Carlo Capua, and I am honored to serve as the Chief of Strategy and Innovation for the city of Fort Worth, Texas. And it is so wonderful to see everyone in person. Actually, do me a favor. We spend so much time on Zoom and Teams and virtual events. Turn to someone next to you and say, "You look even better in 3D." Do that for a moment. All right, you all do look so much better in 3D. We have almost 900 people in the room with us. And for those of you watching online on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. Feel free to post in the comments in the chat where you're from, and we will be so happy to have you join us virtually. Now, folks, there are a number of special guests that we would like to recognize today. So if you are an elected official in the city of Fort Worth, Tarrant County, the state of Texas, nationally, or in some other role, would you please stand and be recognized? Elected officials. Thank you very much. Now, this has been a huge year for the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. We brought back some classic events. We've hired a new foundation leader. We've set off on a new strategic direction and anchored it all with our Light the Trail ride, where members of our board and friends of the foundation, get this, they biked for over 2 weeks from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico along the Mississippi River. I don't know about you, but 2 weeks is a long time to be in a car, much less on a bike. So you'll have a chance to hear more from them shortly. The ride itself was a chance to spread hope throughout the country, but it was also a stark reminder. It reminds us all that, folks, mental health doesn't care what state you live in. Mental health doesn't care the color of your skin or how much money you have in your bank account or what religion you practice. We all share a common humanity, and your support of this mission is one way to achieve that unity. Now, if you'll all join me for a moment of prayer as we give thanks. If you've already started on your meal, don't worry. Your food will just be blessed a little less than everyone else's, so please bow your heads. God, we thank you for bringing us together to share our thoughts, our hopes, and our needs with one another, for shining a light together on depression and suicide, and for the generosity and support from our friends and champions who are with us today. God, we ask for your intercession on the people in this room, in our families, and for those in our community, that they will be beacons of hope and joy to those who need it most, and for those who have lost loved ones or who may be suffering themselves. We pray for your comfort and grace and ask that you be with us always in our times of need. And when we are ready, oh God, we pray for the courage to support others. Please bless this gathering and our time together. Bless our food and the hands that prepared it. And finally, God, we ask that you bless the work of our hands to help us create a world where suicide is never a choice. And all God's people said, amen. Thank you very much. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Tom Krampitz, a solo practitioner in Fort Worth, specializing, that was a tepid round of applause. Don't worry, we'll give you a chance to make up for it. He's a solo practitioner, and I promise they love you, Tom, in Fort Worth, specializing in governmental affairs and public policy advocacy. Now, Tom makes a career of representing businesses and individuals in transportation, land use, economic development, and environmental matters, among others. Prior to entering private practice in June of 2007, Tom served 5 years as general counsel and director of governmental affairs for Texas Motor Speedway. And perhaps more importantly, Tom is married to the lovely and talented Terry Bentley Hill, who has been a keynote speaker. Tom, your wife just got more applause than you did, and it's your introduction. That's really something. She's also a Dallas attorney who specializes in criminal defense. They have 4 children. Their youngest daughter, Hallie, suffered from depression and died by suicide in 2004 at the age of 14. Terry and Tom have dedicated their lives to advocacy efforts to support services for mental health awareness and treatment, serving on boards such as the Suicide and Crisis Center of North Texas, the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, and the Grace Lawn Car Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our friend, Mr. Tom Krampitz.
Thank you. Good afternoon. One of the hats that I wear, and thank you for the introduction, Carla, one of the hats that I wear is as an adjunct professor over at Aggie Law School here in Fort Worth. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, adjunct professor is a term of art, and that means old guy works cheap. So when Ellen asked me to visit with you today, and the reason I mentioned the law school experience is because even though we do talk about the law and public policy, that's the class that I have, I think it's my opportunity, because I'm an old guy who works cheap, to pass along to my students some life lessons that I've learned along the way. And as I thought about my message here this afternoon, I realized that a lot of those life lessons apply to the business at hand today with the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. So there's 12 that I share with my students. Y'all are a fast learning group, so there's only 7. So let's count down from the top. You only have one chance to make a first impression. Can I see a show of hands of folks this is the first time you've been to a Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation function? Well, number one, thank you so much for coming, and let's give them a round of applause for being here. And I can guarantee you that because of the hard work of the volunteers and the staff, and really the passion of the founders, Tom and Ellen Harris, I guarantee you that today is going to be a tremendous first impression. Number 6, stay in gratitude. You know, there can be dark days, and sometimes we just need a little extra help. And what Terry and I have found works for us is to stay in gratitude. There's a whole lot of stuff out there that's pretty dark in the business of suicide and depression. But if you stay in gratitude, and Terry does this every morning of her life, she gets up and she makes a gratitude list. And again, in referring to the founders, Tom and Ellen Harris, I couldn't be more grateful for the way they've turned pain into purpose and a passion for ending suicide and depression. So a round of applause for Tom and Ellen Harris. In many ways, I'm standing up here today because I've had the benefit of a mentor. Many mentors actually through my life. There's one sitting here today with me who claims he's my mentor. He's half my age, but you know, mentorship has nothing to do with age. So the mentorship program that the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation supports is called Hope Squad, and it's the essence of mentorship. You'll learn more about it here today. Number 4, your best is good enough. I can't tell you how many times some of my students will come up to me and they're discouraged because they measure themselves against people who've been lawyers for a long time, or people that, you know, somehow or another they believe are better than them. And I ask them, have you done your best today? That's all you have to do. Your best is good enough. It's an affirmation, and for folks in this room that I know sometimes can be discouraged, just look in the mirror and tell yourself, my best is good enough. And I can guarantee you the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation gets up every morning and pledges to do the best that they can be. This is a lost art form. With my students, I even bring a show and tell item. I said, you know, this is an envelope. This is called a note card. It has my name on it. And what you do with this is you write notes. People don't do that anymore. They might write a tweet or they might write an email, but people don't write notes. My daughter Katie is wonderful at writing notes. You know, they're little love letters is what they are. On your table, guess what? There's a way for you to write a note. You can write a note today to the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation and show us your support financially. You can never dream too big. I had one of my students tell me, I bring speakers to our class, and I brought a fella from here in Fort Worth named Casey Pipes, who is a presidential speechwriter. Now, not too many people get to do that. Not too many people get to sit in the West Wing of the White House and work with the President of the United States on speeches. And one of my students came up afterwards, she said, I never thought about that, but I can do that. And I said, you can do that. You dream big. If you go to the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation website, you'll see a vision statement that says, a world without suicide or depression. At the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, we dream big. Isaac Manning, who you hear from here today, will tell us we can't dream too big. The fight that we're in is too big not to dream big, not to set standards really high. And the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation is tenacious in our quest to live in a world where suicide or depression do not exist. Number one, there's a tie. You must take care of yourself. I'm in a room full of people who take care of other folks. And a lot of times we don't do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. So if there's ever a time where you're feeling alone, where you're feeling lonely, where you feel like you need to have some support and help, that's another way that the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation can be of assistance to you. You can never be alone as long as the foundation exists. And finally, you must be present to win. You know, there's a lot of mornings you get up and you say, you know, I just don't want to do that. I don't want to go there. I don't want to have to take care of that. And those are exactly the days that you need to get up, suit up, show up, because that's the only way we win. We have to be present to win. The people who came here today, by your presence, you honor us, because by golly, this morning you got up, you suited up, and you showed up. And let me tell you, the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, in its tenacious leadership, in its dedicated staff, and through the generosity of its donors, is going to be present every day, and we will win. Thank you very much for your time and attention this afternoon. And I'm supposed to say, please direct your attention to the screens for a short video from the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation.
Good afternoon. I'm Matt Vereecke, the CEO of the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. And on behalf of our board, Tom and Ellen, and all of those who have been affected by suicide in North Texas, I want to welcome you today to our luncheon. Suicide is a very difficult topic for us to talk about. And today at the luncheon, we are going to be confronting some very difficult themes. But it is so important for us to be able to do this as a community, to be able to call out our loss and to call out our joys and to call out our hopes. Doing these things together and having you participate today means so much to the future of eliminating depression and suicide here in North Texas. On behalf of our board, on behalf of Tom and Ellen, I am so thankful that you chose to be here today. Whether you choose to share your time, your talent, or your treasure in this great mission going forward, thank you for now partnering with us to end depression and suicide in North Texas.
This has become my passion, and I've lost students to suicide on campuses, and it's not easy. QPR stands for Question, Persuade, Refer. It is a national suicide prevention program. We are not about teaching kids to be counselors or therapists, but what we are encouraging and training them to do is to be able to recognize when their peer is in a crisis. We teach them how to question. It's not awkward for them to ask a friend if they are struggling or if they have thought about harming themselves. They know that, hey, if I see that my friend is in trouble, I know how to respond. I don't just sit there and text back and try to fix it myself. I persuade my friend to come with me to get to a trusted adult. The Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation partners with us to bring Hope Squads, which is a peer-to-peer suicide prevention program, because we know kids talk to kids before they talk to adults. And this is the best program I have found to do that.
If I hear someone talking about it, I talk to them about it, and I get the details, and then I will try to get them to go to the counselor with me, but the best thing I can do is if they can't, then I need to go tell the counselor to help them out.
Being a Hope Squad member is not being a counselor. We are here to listen, and we are trained with QPR. It's that peer-to-peer connection that not everybody can get.
It's the first step to get you the actual help from a real counselor.
Walk up to somebody, if they seem down or if they seem angry, any sort of feeling that's out of the usual for them, what's up? What's going on? Why are you feeling this way? Is there something I can do to help you? Things like that. It's simple.
Being in Hope Squad means to me helping people, not judging, listening, and really understanding and getting on their level almost to get them the exact help that they need.
One day I got a text from my friend. They didn't think they could do it anymore. Feeling the pain that they felt while being around the people they were around. And I was scared. I texted Miss Holder, who is my Hope Squad advisor, and I said, my friend is in trouble. They feel like they no longer deserve to live. And it ended up saving their life. They still have their moments where they feel struggle, they feel depressed, but it's okay to feel that way. But the fact that they are still here is more of a gift than I could have ever imagined.
It still is, but stigmatized within our culture. Losing my brother made me change everything about death by suicide. I continue to honor him and the lives that we've lost to suicide by speaking about it and educating others about suicide and the prevention and talking about mental health, talking about suicide, talking about QPR with Construyendo el Amor, because amor is love, and to love others is to care about their well-being, and their well-being is their emotional health, their mental health, their physical health. And culturally, we are about families, and we care about our families. So to care about our families is to care about them as a whole and not just parts of them.
I was working at fire administration. We were noticing that a lot of our firefighters were having some behavioral health and mental health concerns. So I talked with our fire chief, Rudy Jackson, and I said, you know what? I said, we need to collaborate with our area community behavioral health resources. And so I did some research and found your foundation to come together. Let's work together to try to meet the needs of the firefighters, their families, and our community. And before QPR, we had never had any training on asking those vital questions. There has been a stigma attached for many years, and trying to overcome that is a challenge. I am so grateful for the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation because you are saving lives.
Well, thank you to the foundation for that great hand for that great video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure now to introduce the man that you saw in the video. His name is Matt Vereecke. He is the new CEO of the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. And let me tell you, his last name is really hard to pronounce. So say it with me, Vereecke. Vereecke. That makes him feel very special when you pronounce his name right. His last name has 8 letters, and 4 of them are the letter E. So if you see it written, you know how to pronounce it. Let me tell you a little bit about Matt. His work experience includes educational administration leadership at the superintendent level for Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Dallas, which is comprised of over 15,000 students across 40 different schools. Matt has also taught at the University of Oklahoma and the University of Dallas and has served on a number of boards of nonprofits in the DFW area. So trust me, he is qualified. He is fit to lead this organization. He has an undergraduate and master's degrees from the University of Notre Dame, go Irish, and earned his doctorate at the University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. He is thrilled to be a part of the great work being done at the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, and is so excited to bring him on board to bring hope to those in need. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcoming the new CEO of the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, Matt Vereecke.
It's great to have people get your name right. I'm excited and thrilled about that. What do you think of when you think of the biggest organism alive? Do you think of whales, elephants, maybe some sea creature that you haven't thought of? In fact, the largest known organism in the world is actually an aspen grove in Utah that's named Pando. As it turns out, aspens are social trees. They have this interconnected root system that allows the central organism, in a way scientists don't fully understand, to share resources, to moderate against threats, and to maintain the health of the system. This ensures that new trees can sprout and grow while older trees can re-inject their nutrients into the system near the end of their life. And it means that aspens are really a community that works together. This is Jasper, Canada, where an ecological disaster has really been unfolding over the past several years. The brown trees that you see there are pine trees that have been attacked by a pine beetle that burrows into their trunks and kills them. Thousands upon thousands of these trees are affected, and if you look at this picture, you may see little glimpses of green among the pines, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that those are pine trees that got lucky or were extra hardy or in some other way were just spared. The truth is that those green specks are not accidents. The green specks amid this dying forest are aspen trees. You see, the trees in this area actually have a natural defense against the pine beetle. When they're attacked, they can let other trees know how to prepare their defenses by releasing pheromones into the air. And for the pine trees, it takes about 5 days to ramp up the production to warn the other trees. The problem is that the pine beetle kills them in 3. The aspens don't have this issue. They share signals through their roots, and while the trees on the outer edges of the forest will sometimes get attacked and will sometimes die, their sacrifice protects the rest of the grove. And the lesson here is actually pretty simple. We stand together or we die alone. Now, you've just had a chance to hear about our Hope Squad programs that began with a handful of schools and now serve over 120 in Tarrant County and beyond, in both public and private schools. That's 100,000 students that are affected by the work that you've helped support. You got to hear about our QPR programs that are directly targeted toward your business or your nonprofit or your community organization or simply to you personally. And we would always invite you to connect on those things. And since 2017, the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation has trained almost 22,000 people to recognize the warning signs of suicide, to offer hope to people in crisis, and to help save a life through these very critical programs. And finally, you need to know that we support research that makes all of this possible, that makes these students safer, that makes your businesses safer, that makes our communities safer, from local experts like Dr. Trivedi and local experiments that we've run through Cook Children's, all the way to a very new focus that we're bringing this September, a focus on global experts and researchers in this country. We're bringing together the top 20 people who are looking at suicidology right to Fort Worth to talk about how we can serve a community and how we can ultimately serve each other. This is how we serve our community. This is how we serve each of you. We stand together or we die alone. We stand with you. And now you're standing with us. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Matt. And let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we are in good hands with Matt Vereecke leading this organization. We are so excited to see the great work that you do. And now we are fortunate to receive another short greeting from Ms. Ebonie Freeman, an aspiring mental health speaker, advocate, and who currently resides right here in North Texas. She identifies as an Army brat, a multiple suicide attempt survivor, and someone who is on a wellness journey living with multiple mental health conditions. She told me that she adores all things that sparkle and that are purple. And I said, well, TCU's in Fort Worth, so you're right at home. She has a certification in culinary arts from Texas State Technical College, Waco, a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Science degree in Public Affairs and Community Service from the University of North Texas, and is currently working toward a master's degree in social work online at Baylor University. Ebonie is certified in QPR Gatekeeper Suicide Prevention, Psychological First Aid Virtual Care in a Pandemic, and Adult Mental Health First Aid. Ebonie's recovery journey continues through ongoing intentional self-care, mental health advocacy, education, and further professional development. And she told me her favorite quote was by the late, great Maya Angelou that goes, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." Please help me welcome Ebonie Freeman.
Good afternoon. I'd like to ask you a few questions. If the question applies to you, think about your answer and how you were affected. How many of you are the ones that everyone depends on? How many of you have ever felt the pressure to be perfect? How many of you feel misunderstood? How many of you have been told what goes on in this house stays in this house? How many of you have ever felt hopeless? How many of you have ever felt like you're trying your best, but your best hasn't been good enough? Growing up, I experienced instances of physical abuse, trauma, and constant emotional neglect. In my early 20s, after struggling for years with being unhappy with how my life was, is when I really started to battle with my mental health. I fought with low self-esteem, self-harm, body aches and pains, passive and active suicidal ideations, 2 suicide attempts, multiple self-harm attempts, 2 hospitalizations, and episodes of psychosis. I had no idea what was going on inside of me. I didn't seek help because I was used to keeping everything bottled up inside. I was the one that everyone came to, the one everyone depended on. Culturally, I was taught that I had to be strong no matter what. I was taught that only certain people went to therapy, and I was not part of those who did. During those years on top of that, I also dealt with heavy guilt because I believed as a person of faith that I should not be depressed or not want to be alive. I experienced torment in my spiritual life because of this. In 2009, after graduating with my undergraduate degree, I started to seek counseling at the community clinic on campus. During one of my counseling sessions, my student counselor was concerned that I was suicidal and had intent to act. It appeared to her I needed hospitalization. I told her that I was feeling suicidal, but I had no plan or intent to act on those feelings. However, because of her concern and the law, she called 911. As I stood outside of her office door, 3 tall men dressed in all white were standing in the hallway. I was given an ultimatum. I could go willingly, or they would take me by force. I asked if I could at least walk out of the building into the ambulance, but my request was denied. I had to be taken out in a stretcher. Once at the hospital, I was evaluated, but due to not having a bed available at the psychiatric hospital, I was able to go home if my husband made sure that I was safe. My first psychiatric hospitalization admission was a result of how bad my mental health became, in addition to having suicidal ideations with a plan to act on them. This was a very traumatic experience, and I did not receive much empathy or kindness in the process. In a moment of psychosis a couple of years prior, my husband found me in the bathroom with a pair of scissors cutting off all of my hair. I was not aware of what I was doing. Once I was able to process everything and understood what happened, I broke down. Living like this made life feel unbearable. I could not keep a job or stay in school because at some point I would experience a relapse and quit. My second psychiatric hospitalization happened because I had been off my medication due to not having insurance and having thoughts about harming myself and my husband, in addition to having suicidal ideations. I went to a local facility to seek help. I was afraid to share the thoughts that I'd been having, but I admitted that I needed help, but had no intent to act on them. After the evaluation, I was told that I needed to be hospitalized. This was devastating. Here I was again, faced with being put into a psychiatric hospital. I said I didn't want to be hospitalized. I just needed help. At that point, I had no other option. After my refusal, a sheriff was called. My husband and I stood there, tears streaming down our faces. As I was escorted out of the building, the employees just stared at me. That ended up with me being transported in the back of a smoke-filled, cramped sheriff's car. I felt like a criminal. I was admitted and stayed in the psychiatric hospital for 1 week. I'm constantly learning how to incorporate my coping skills and face my symptoms. Going to counseling is very critical for me in my recovery process. It is helping me to get outside of negative thoughts about myself, teaching me how to establish healthier thinking and how to communicate, as well as express my feelings and my emotions. I had negative thoughts about taking medication. However, my counselor and psychiatrist helped me to see that for me at this time, it's going to be beneficial. I also learned how to build a support system, as well as positive coping skills to help me function daily. Most importantly, I learned that I was not alone. I learned that I had to be patient with myself, consistent, and active in my recovery journey. Even if I experienced relapse, which I have, I had a history that proved that I could make it through. My experience living with multiple mental health conditions and being a suicide attempt survivor has given me the drive to share my journey with others. I've been able to find purpose in the darkness. Kirk Franklin, a gospel singer, wrote a song called Shout. One of the lyrics in the song is, "The pain was preparation for my destiny." That lyric gives meaning to my struggles. Success for me is knowing it's okay not to be okay. This is a marathon and not a sprint, and I am worth it to make it across the finish line. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you. If I had to write a book about how my mental health conditions have impacted my life, the title would be Purposed by Design, and the Maya Angelou quote would be the defining reason behind composing such a novel. I am here with you all today because I have done the hard work of overcoming stigma, guilt, shame, and learning how to become vulnerable. Most importantly, seeing that my story in all of its valley lows and mountaintop experiences could be used to help others changed my confidence and perspective. Deciding to be open about my mental health conditions and their impact on my life came from a place of purpose rather than fear. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Ebonie Freeman. Ebonie, this is for you. Well, Ebonie, if I may take a moment of personal privilege and thank you for allowing us to put a name and a face and a voice behind mental health and behind suicide. I know there are about 1,000 people right now watching and listening, and I have a feeling that there's at least one person out there needed to hear that story. And folks, that's why we're here today. Number one, of course, we want to shine a light on mental health, depression, and suicide, because when we don't talk about it, that just perpetuates the stigma. And number two, of course, we're here because we need to raise money, because fighting this mental health, fighting this disease, fighting suicide, it costs money, and it takes good, talented people. And so, Ebonie, again, thank you for your untold courage in being here and sharing your story with us. Now, folks, when I was backstage, I got some breaking news. This is pretty exciting because I was told that they are going to make the Light the Trail ride, you know, that 1,800-mile bike ride, they're going to make that into a full-length documentary. And I'm told we have a, y'all want to see the trailer? I'm told we have a trailer. Do we want to see the trailer? Do we want to see the trailer? Let's roll the trailer.
When the emptiness hides the truth, and gray clouds block the silver lining, let's talk. Because in order to remove a stigma, you have to bring the conversation out of the dark and into the light.
I ride for my sister Jordan Harris.
I ride for Bobby Mendez.
I ride for my cousin Ricky Rice.
For my wife Leslie Colbert.
I ride so another parent, family, and friend never has to bury their loved one.
In October 2022, a team of cyclists traveled 1,800 miles with one mission: to light the way towards a future free of depression and suicide.
I don't think there's a bike ride I go that I don't think about Matt.
I want the nation to hear this incredible story that these people are doing and how people can be helped.
Join us for their inspiring journey. 1,800 miles. The Light the Trail story. Coming 2023.
Who's excited for that documentary? Now, I'll be honest, I'm going to go off script for a second, but here's what that documentary, that trailer did not show you. It did not show you what it's like to be riding in the driving rain. It didn't show what it's like to be climbing up a hill at 100-degree heat, or biking on a 2-lane road and there's cars trying to pass you, and some cars don't care that you're biking. They think you're in the way. It's a dangerous thing. It's a grueling thing, and it's a painful thing. When I was 22 years old, I was in college, and I did an 800-mile bike ride, which compared to 1,800 seems like nothing. But folks, the day after my first ride, I was sore in places I didn't even know existed. So I can't imagine what it was like to do the 1,800 miles, but I am so excited to see that documentary, and we can share this organization, share the mission with even more people around the world. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing today's 3 keynote speakers, beginning with Elisha Harris, who graduated from the University of Texas at Austin in 2015 with a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology and Health and a minor in Psychology. She currently works at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago as a residency program coordinator for the Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery Residency Program. Now, outside of work and serving on our board of directors, Elisha enjoys traveling, riding her bike. I was told she was one of the folks that rode her bike, so she probably rides her bike in increments less than 1,800 miles at a time, let's hope, and exploring everything that the great city of Chicago has to offer. And folks, you might recognize her last name. Elisha is Jordan Harris's younger sister. We also have with us Mr. Isaac Manning, the president of Trinity Works, a real estate development company that focuses on business innovation, investment, and implementation. Mr. Manning has over 35 years' experience in real estate development as an architect and developer. He has experience in both domestic and international markets and has been focused on public-private partnerships, many which have become economic development success stories. And our third speaker is Frasher Pergande, a native to Fort Worth. She has a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Master's degree in art history. She has spent most of her career in Manhattan working for Aquavella Galleries and Paula Cooper Gallery. And eventually, she came back to Texas and worked as a Dallas representative for Sotheby's. And over the past 23 years, Frasher has served on boards including KERA, Fort Worth Country Day, the Museum of Science and History in Fort Worth, and the Symphony Orchestra. And Frasher and her husband, John, have 3 sons, 1 daughter-in-law, and a 4-month-old grandson, Hudson. Please help me welcome today's keynote speakers, starting with Elisha Harris.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Elisha Harris. I'm Jordan Harris's younger sister. And I had the privilege of being a part of the 2022 Light the Trail team. So I'm going to skip ahead to the very end of the ride when we rode into Audubon Park in New Orleans. The setting was perfect, and we had a huge crowd of people cheering us on. We got off our bikes and started to embrace each other on a job well done. And I started to cry. For a lot of reasons, but mostly because I was just genuinely sad that the ride was over. All right, maybe not so much the bike riding part was over, but I was sad to have to soon part ways with an incredible group of people. Most of us had been with each other nonstop for 2 weeks, and we formed an amazing bond. I told my mom that, in a way, it felt like summer camp was ending. There are so many memories of our team bonding, but some that stick out in my mind include all of us riders having to power through some really nasty headwinds on our way to Greenville, Mississippi, although some people made it look way too easy. Playing shuffleboard outside of Brainerd, Minnesota after a long day of riding. The Hillwood office in Memphis graciously hosting us and treating us to some delicious Memphis barbecue, but all of us secretly thinking to ourselves that Texas barbecue is still better. Speaking of food, Frasher Pergande, who is amazing and oversaw our food truck, found these really tasty chocolate milk protein shakes that we all loved and would drink at the end of each leg of the ride to help replenish our sore muscles. And I think that's honestly what kept me going in those last 10 miles of a 50-mile ride. Now, I was one of the younger riders on the team. I think one of my favorite roles that I played was the designated IT person. We dealt with a decent amount of technology when we were navigating our routes each day, and some people needed a little extra guidance. But I was more than happy to help out where I could. I was already pretty used to taking on that role with my parents. But I think one of the main things that brought us the closest together were the ride fours. Prior to and during the ride, we asked people to submit stories about loved ones they lost to suicide. Each day, we would post those stories to Instagram and Facebook and dedicate our ride to one of those people. People like Matt Harbin, Susan Dufell, Charlie Stevenson, Leslie Culver, Jordan Harris, and the list goes on. We would gather each morning before we took off riding, and we would take turns reading the ride-fors out loud. There usually wasn't a dry eye in the group by the time each one was finished. It was a time for us to reflect, to grieve, and to heal. Talking about my sister Jordan since she died in 2012 hasn't always been easy for me, especially with people that didn't know Jordan or haven't experienced a suicide of someone close to them. I remember I was in the car one day during the ride with Libby Harbin and Chris Culver on the way to one of our starting points. I remember how effortless it was to talk to them about Jordan because they too had experienced losing a loved one to suicide. I wish it could be that easy for everyone to talk about mental health, but I wish you didn't have to experience losing a sister, a son, or a wife to suicide in order to start talking about it. We shouldn't be afraid to say things like, "I'm not okay, and I need help." We shouldn't be afraid to honor and celebrate the lives of people we lost to suicide. We've got to get rid of this stigma surrounding suicide and mental health and make sure that suicide is never a choice. And I think we made some pretty amazing progress with this on our journey, but we've got to keep that momentum going. I'm hoping that everyone in this room and everyone watching online will help us continue that work. This ride taught me so many things. It's shown me a confidence in myself that I didn't know I had. I feel so honored and proud to have been part of Light the Trail 2022. It's an experience that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Thank you, and I hope to see you on the next ride. And now please welcome Isaac to the stage.
Hi, y'all. I'm Isaac Manning, in case you don't know me. So I'm kind of the meat between the sandwich here. So this ride was a different beast from beginning to end. On July 3rd, 2021, Tom and Ellen, Libby and I were at Chris and Leslie Culver's house planning this ride down the Mississippi. 7 days later, Leslie Culver was dead by suicide. So the ride became, for us, an act of defiance by the living against the darkness of depression and suicide. The other difference from 2017 is that we traveled 1,800 miles in less than 2 weeks. In 2017, the pace was relaxed, lots of riding, lots of stories. That trip, but on this trip, we had to plan it out well in advance. John and Frasher Pergande, Aaron Buck, Andy DeFell, Tom and Ellen, Libby and I met every Monday night from January on. So the days were different because they had to be. We were an army on the move for 2 weeks. A typical day for us was a rollout at 5:30 or 6 for coffee in the lobby wherever we were staying. You generally find Libby Harbin already up, Frasher already up, putting together the snack line for the day, and then Libby and Frasher would miraculously disappear somewhere and come back with lunches for everybody because they had been prearranged months in advance. During breakfast, we deal with the routing issue, who was going to ride what segment and how we were going to get through this. Then we would do the packing and load out, which is always fun because we could never figure out where the keys were to whatever vehicle we were driving. Then we would run off to the parking lot and do our ride for. But on day 3, Dave Harbin, we would generally have lots of weeping because the ride fors are incredibly brutal to get through. But on day 3, Dave Harbin kind of said something about, we kind of do the tears in the morning, and then in the afternoon we drink beer, and every major ride needs a catchphrase, so ours became tears to beers. So whenever we would break in gallows humor after the ride for, we would go out and go, cheers to beers, and then we'd go off. Everybody would then disappear for the day, ride their 50-mile segment. If we were lucky, we would get back to the hotel in time for a shower. Then we would run off and do a Let's Talk event, and then dinner was always promptly between 6 and 6:30. Then we would roll back to the hotel, go to bed, collapse, get up, and do it all over again. But the rate of the ride and why we were doing this was inescapable this trip. Between the Harbins, Chris Culver, Andrew Dufell, and the Harrises, they're an everyday reminder of what survivors look like. The pain of their loss is palpable, as is the pain of the loss for many of you all in this room today. So through suffering, perseverance, through perseverance, character, and through character, hope. To keep living and keep going on requires a special kind of courage. Seeing how they all handled this and forced us to really think about what we were saying to the living. Because y'all, we live in a world of Instagram perfect moments, but we all know that the world is far from perfect. The ride once again proved that story after story after story. In America today, 1 million people a year attempt suicide. There's even more pain and suffering with depression out there hiding in plain sight. So my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in your weakness. There are 4 fundamental lies that people who are struggling with depression tell themselves. Lie number 1, you're worthless. Lie number 2, no one is going to miss you when you're gone, and your family is going to be so much better off without you. Lie number 3, when you're in the bottom of that pit, you don't think that your condition is ever going to change, and there's no hope. Lie number 4, if you just kill yourself, all of your pain will go away. Now, for those of you all that know me personally and professionally, you would probably never suspect that I've told those lies to myself at varying points throughout my life. To admit my weakness, my struggle, and my family's generational struggle with depression would be unheard of because of the stigma associated with it, right? But there it is. So in my weakness, he is strong. I have been rescued by angels on earth more than one occasion. The question that haunts me to this day is, had I been able to open up and talk about the 4 lies, could that act have changed the trajectory of other people's lives? What if I'd opened up to Jordan, to Andrew Pillow, to Charlie Stevenson? Could I have changed that trajectory that led them to take their lives? All I know is that life is too short and precious not to be real and transparent about depression and suicide. I've now had that conversation with my boys. I've had that conversation with my church, and I'm having it today with 1,000 people in this room. Depression and mental illness are real, and we are at a war with an insidious darkness. So I'm going to transition this over to Frasher Pergande, who's going to expand on these thoughts, but I want to close with this quote from Jeremiah. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Thank you.
When videographer Corey Zimmerman asked to interview me for the video that you all just saw a sneak peek to for the documentary, I said, me? You don't want me. I'm not even riding a bike. I'm driving the food truck. I mean, I'm arranging lunches and dinners, and I'm checking into hotels, but you don't want to interview me. Corey said, yes, I do, because people behind the scene are just as important as the people on the bikes. Well, as you could see, during the interview, I started crying. Tears came to my eyes as I described why I was on the ride. I have a great desire to make mental health a topic we can all talk about openly and without judgment. As Elisha just said, it could be easy for everyone if we remove the stigma. Elisha, Ellen, Tom, Matt, and the entire Light the Trail team, family, share this goal. We want to normalize discussing mental health issues. For 2 weeks, we met countless people who wanted to learn how to eradicate the stigma of mental health in their cities, towns, and schools. Many teachers came to our Let's Talk sessions. Every one of them wanted to know more about the Hope Squad program. Hope Squad's goal is to provide friendship, encouragement, and support for middle school students who may be struggling. After John Shaw, one of our Lake Itasca to New Orleans riders, returned home, he and his wife Cassie received an email from their older daughter's school counselor. The email informed them that Sloan had been nominated to be a member of her school's Hope Squad team. She's now accepted that honor. That means Sloan is a very good listener. It also means that she is someone her peers can trust. It also means that the Shaws have 2 generations of awesome people in their family, fighting, shining a light on mental health issues. Each Hope Squad member wears a pin that resembles a red and white life preserver. Other teens are reminded that the person wearing that pin is someone who would listen to them without judgment. What if we wore those pins? On our ride, our Light the Trail shirts serve the same purpose as the Hope Squad pins. In every cafe, at every gas station, in every grocery store, people would ask us, what's up with the shirts? Why do y'all match? And what's up with the bikes? Well, I watched each of us reply to those questions, but I was most impressed with Libby Harbin's responses. I watched my new friend share her story about her son, Matt, listen to other people's stories, and hand out countless Light the Trail cards, and embrace complete strangers. Because Libby is a very good listener, and she is someone to whom strangers turned. I know I'd like to be described as being compassionate and a good listener, and I would certainly wear one of those pins with pride. What about the rest of you all? I don't think we're any different, you and I. Otherwise, I don't think you'd be here at this luncheon. I mean, you might be here for the free food. I don't know. But seriously, I would like to challenge each of you to do something. Look around your table. Make real eye contact with everyone and ask them, how are you doing today? And listen to their responses. Then go back to work and ask your coworkers, how are you all doing today? And listen to their answers. Then go home and ask your family members the same question. How are you doing today? And don't accept, I'm fine. Ask them to be open and honest. It may take some time to get used to doing this, but if you repeat it every day until the next Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation luncheon, imagine how many people would begin to think of you as being compassionate and concerned. The Harrises and the Light the Trail family want to make mental health a topic we can talk about openly without any judgment. That may sound like a huge undertaking, but I believe it can be done. Let's compare normalizing discussions about mental health to normalizing discussions about cancer. When I was a little girl, my parents' friends would come over and I would hear them say, oh, did you hear? She has cancer. And they'd whisper the word. They wouldn't even say it out loud. Now people boldly tell you, I am a cancer survivor. I have survived breast cancer. I have survived prostate cancer. They have no reason to whisper or hide. In fact, they share their stories, wear ribbon pins, and call themselves cancer warriors. Most importantly, when they share, they help other people. So why don't we, all 1,000 of us, why don't we vow to become mental health warriors? If the Hope Squad kids can do it, y'all, we can do it. Let's allow people, all people, family, friends, coworkers, strangers, to speak openly about their mental health issues. Together, we could create a world where suicide is never a choice. I want to accomplish that. That is why I'm involved with the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation. That is why I went on the ride. That is why Corey wanted to interview me. I am a mental health warrior. Join me.
Well, thank you to Elisha, to Isaac, and to Frasher for sharing your stories. And now it is my honor to introduce you to the co-founder and the board chair of the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, and more importantly, the mother of Jordan Elizabeth Harris. Please help me welcome Mrs. Ellen Harris.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Tom, Ebonie, Elisha, Isaac, and Frasher for your inspiring words. I'd also like to thank our generous donors, sponsors, and table captains, because without them, this luncheon would not be as successful as it is. I hope that we now have a room full of mental health warriors. Our first Light the Trail ride was in 2017. That ride was 3,400 miles from the West Coast to the East Coast and lasted about 10 weeks. Just a few days into the ride, the executive director at the time informed us that she was leaving for a better opportunity. As you can imagine, we were panicked knowing that we wouldn't be back for 10 weeks, but we soon found our savior. Christina Judge came on board and took over the reins while we were gone. We will never be able to thank her for that and for the 4.5 years that she led this organization with passion and compassion. Christina, would you please stand up and let us recognize you? The National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, which is an arm of the CDC, makes a big deal on their website of mentioning that in 2021, government funding for suicide prevention research increased from $10 million to $12 million. While it's wonderful that that funding has been increased, let me put that in perspective. In 2021, over 47,000 people in the US died by suicide. During that same period, 43,000 people, or 4,000 fewer people, died of breast cancer in the US, but the government funded over $500 million to breast cancer research. Talk about disparity. Margaret Mead, the anthropologist, said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." We can't count on the government to fund local suicide prevention programs or local depression research or the Hope Squad. The Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation relies on you for that funding. You, the committed citizens who have a passion for eliminating suicide and solving the mystery of depression. I urge you to help us in our quest to change and create change, and save lives. On the table in front of you is a pledge card. You'll find it inside your program. Please donate whatever fits into your budget, whether it's $5 or $5,000. This year, we've made it very easy for you. If you look at the bottom of the pledge card, there's a QR code that'll take you directly to the donate page of our website when you scan it. You can also text your donation to 833-307-0773. Additionally, if you'd like to take home one of these gorgeous orchids that are on your table, there's an envelope by the orchids for your suggested donation of $20. We are incredibly grateful to you all for your generosity and commitment to the foundation and our mission to prevent suicide, eliminate stigma, and provide hope to people struggling with depression. And now, please enjoy this video about the recent Texas-wide Hope Squad conference organized by our program director, Christy Wiley. Thank you. The Hope Squad conference was incredibly emotional for me. To look out on the lawn when the kids were having lunch and see this sea of young people with their Hope Squad shirts and their Hope Squad backpacks. And to think that, you know, just 6 years ago, I think maybe we had 5 schools, 10 schools that we provided service to, and now we have over 100 schools in 14 different school districts and several private schools too. It's just amazing to me. There are lots of kids out there that are being helped because there's a Hope Squad in their school. I know that all the effort that we as a foundation and we as a board have put forth is really making a difference. And you can see that when you see all of these Hope Squad kids. There were 1,000 kids here at the Hope Squad conference. It was absolutely incredible. None of that happens without a huge amount of support. My husband Tom and I have worked hard for this foundation, but we're just a small part of it. There's so many other people that have worked really hard to make our program successful and make this amazing Hope Squad conference even happen. We have a devoted staff, we have an amazing board, and we have the people that come to support us at our events every year who believe in what we're doing. This is a collective effort. What's incredibly encouraging for me is how much more freely people are willing to talk about these subjects now than even they were when we lost Jordan. So my feeling is that those discussions and those conversations are the things that break down stigma. And the more we can break down the stigma that's attached to mental illness and suicide prevention, the greater the impact will be of the Hope Squad, the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation, and QPR, and everything that we offer. So we are just going to keep fighting to break down that stigma, because the more we can break that down, then the more people we can get who will seek help and seek treatment and survive.
Well, thank you to the Harris family. Thanks you to all of you for coming. Before you leave, please be sure and fill out those pledge cards at your table. Again, we can't do this important work for free. It takes money to run these programs, to hire really great staff, and to put on programs like the one you're at today. For you virtual guests and for anyone in the room, we have a QR code that we'll put up. If the text to give is not working, I'm told just try the QR code. That should work. It has been so great seeing all of you in person. Thank you for supporting the Jordan Elizabeth Harris Foundation and for helping us turn the loss of the Harris family into their legacy through Jordan's memory. We look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you.